Silence. A single tongue and soft sound. Silence once again. A giant, blood-curdling scream filled the agony echoed across the place, being able to make even the bravest of people waver and cower. Everything stopped, and even the appetite. Amenity felt cold and surreal, fake. The echo of the scream alerted the pillars, who turned their heads towards the derailed train behind themselves. They looked so terrified and shocked. Even the demon they were fighting against stopped his attacks, wondering what was going on. A moment of silence. Only a faint song of the birds and the wind were able to distract the mute area. That is until the pinkette spoke, with quivering lips, fearful eyes still fixed on the train intensely. Yunjin. It really seemed like every time you left Mitsuri's side, dismay seeked its way onto your path. Shit! Uzui gritted his teeth, not even moving an inch. Little one, the stone pillar said in an overly worried tone before he was hit with the sudden realization. Your proximity. His heart sank and his blood ran cold. Go check out what happened to Mitsuri Uzui, Hajijin urged, just as worried as the love pillar, perhaps even more. The pinkette nodded and ran off, Uzui following suit. With gritted teeth and fluttering hands, Hajijin turned his face towards the demon once again, muttering something. Yin's vision cannot be true. Hanao? The demon spoke in dull yet interested tone, turning his head towards the demon slayers that ran off. This is his chance. He could go after the 2 demon slayers and take you to Master Kibutsuji, as he was supposed to do. He couldn't fail to accomplish his mission a second time. Instead of taking your unconscious, tired self towards Master, the demon carried you somewhere more comfortable to rest. You look so vulnerable and peaceful, even in such an exhausted state, that he felt oddly at ease and fulfilled, as if looking at you was enough to cure all sadness and devour one's heart. Even the pain of the nearly setting sun was bearable. Nothing more than a little itchiness. Why were you resting at the side of the railroad anyways? By the look on your face, it seemed like it wasn't much of a choice, though. Whatever the reason was, you couldn't just stay there. The demon sighed. Akaza, your fake clear reality will be the death of you one day, he thought with dread as he picked you up carefully and set you at the edge of the forest, where the sun wouldn't bother you and the cold would reach you less. The demon then looked at you, thinking of himself, various things. What if she's ambushed in her sleep? How will she fight back? Will her divinity be enough to protect her? Does she even have her own subordinate lurking nearby in case she's in danger? No, the demon didn't see you as weak. He was just truly concerned for the lady's well-being, as one always should. A main concern was your safety at the moment, to protect your carefree and odd self that decided sleeping next to the rails was a good idea, or not. Not like Akaza could take you to Muzan-sama in such a state. He'd be killed for sure. He had to wait until you recovered in order to fulfill his master as he had. The demon railed toward the derailed train without a second to waste, ready to accomplish his mission despite the worrisome thoughts that flooded his mind. Was he really going to take you to the masters? For what? What were his missions for wanting you so desperately anyways? Was it the thought of possessing something so precious? Or was it to ensure not even heaven could humiliate him? As obvious as it was, life was miserable awaited you as Akaza brought you before Master Muzan. A pain in the taboo demon's chest, across. For the second time in the day. Maybe it was regret. Second thoughts? No. It was the stone pillar's weapon that was now settling where Akaza's heart should be. You stay away from her, the blind man said with anger, pulling the chain of his weapon in order to bring the demon towards him again. Shit, the demon hissed with gritted teeth, trying to pry off yet to no avail. Instead, he was tugging backwards. Akaza, despite trying to walk forward, yet the man's strength was far greater than his own. He couldn't rip the weapon out of his chest, for his regeneration clung onto it. The situation soon became more of sort's twisted game of tug-of-war between the two. Let me go, you! Another scream was present, but it was much weaker than the last one. This time, it belonged to a female. Hajijin felt another wave of shivers crawl his skin, making his hands twitch as he thought of the worst. These actions made him let go of his weapon, to which Akaza fell forward, as if pushed the weapon slightly out of his chest. Damn it! Hajijin cursed, trying to run after the demon, yet a sharp pain in his abdomen left him, wincing and unmoving. He was in a horrible gash that left instantly high amounts of blood. Ran towards the forest. The only purplish sky was now turning a bright hue of pink that later became orangish, similar to Kojo's locks of hair. So the demon opted to flee instead of going after you. Thank the gods, Hajijin thought. Heavens and pans? Okay. Through heaves and pants, eyes feeling heavy as he tried to muster out his last words. For truly caring for our child until the death. The scene was so horrid, gut-wrenching. Even killing demons was different from killing someone so close to you. So close. Yet there it was. Nezuko bled. There was so much of the warm, ruby-colored liquid gushing out of her neck. It hinted the ground beneath her. No movement was done, for the shock was quite bad for everyone. A loud and gush-racing male yelled because present suddenly, coming from Tanjiro, who fell on his knees in front of his sister's head. You didn't know whether to despite Tanjiro for realizing too late how far did his crazed self took him to feel sympathy for having lost the only family member left. You did none of that, honestly. You simply tried to progress the scene in front of you, thinking of what to do next. Tanjiro held his sister's head in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Come on, Nezuko, heal yourself like you did before. Use your blood, Nezuko. Nezuko! He then looked at you, then back at his sister, poorly placing Nezuko's head over her cleanly slit neck and pressing her head in hopes it would attach back to her body again. He even tried her muzzle around the cut to help. Yen, please heal my sister. She can't die. Not like this. Please. With shaking hands and raggedy breath, you placed your hands atop Nezuko's head and her left shoulder, only for the sound of sizzling flesh to become present. With a shriek, you brought your hands back to yourself. Tanjiro's eyes showed disbelief, anger, overwhelmed disappointment towards you. You could guess what he wanted to say to you, but he refused to blame you for it until the end. At least, he was distant to hold back his tongue. Nonetheless, one more monologue, I think. Suddenly, Nezuko's mouth began to move, trying to emote sounds and allocate words. This brought Tanjiro relief and some joy. To you, it was so unsettling and utterly terrifying. With heavy pants and coughs, Nezuko began to speak. I'm so sorry. It was the first time Tanjiro and you ever heard her speak since the day Kayaka and you separated from the Komodo siblings, almost about 3 years ago. As such, it was a joyous moment. It was such a horrifying thing to hear Nezuko speak only until her deathbed. She kept repeating the same words over and over as her raspy and fleeting voice threatened to give up any second. Tears poured out of her eyes, quickly dampening nearly cut hair. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Tanjiro cried and choked down sobs and quite unsuccessfully. No, don't say that. You don't have to apologize. Yin. I'm sorry, Yin. Nezuko's words stopped Tanjiro's actions. The girl with pink eyes didn't even bother to look at her brother. Nor did she spare a single word to him. It was you. She apologized to you. You didn't know how to progress at all. The only thing you could do was shift gazes between Tanjiro, whose face read disbelief and dumbfounded, and Nezuko, who kept crying. If only I knew sooner, Nezuko sobbed. If only I could. Suddenly, Nezuko's body, which rested upwards, wriggled in an attempt to flip to her side. Her arms and legs moved about, only adding more terror to the scene. Nezuko finally managed to have her body facing the ground, but her head slipped from her neck in the process. It was a horrible sight, seeing Nezuko's headless body struggling and nearly scratching in difficult ways towards you, yet you remained unmoving, your unfaltering as to wait for her to do whatever she aimed to. One of her cracked hands rested on Kojiro's forehead, while her free hand shivered as she lifted upwards, making it quivering way towards your face. You felt her blood-stained hand caress and softly sighed against your cheek, sometimes uneasily poking your eye, or sneaking a few droplets of the contagious liquid in it. Once Nezuko managed to get a strong enough grip on your face, both Kojiro and you engulfed the reddish-pink flames. She was healing you too. After a few more seconds, the flames disappeared, as well as the pain and whatever trace of wounds the flame pillar had. Oh, and you. You looked at Nezuko's head, which smiled sadly as she kept tearing up. A trail of her blood, though, seemed more dense and difficult from the ordinary blood. It shakily tried to connect with her neck, almost as if it had a conscience of its own. You alternately stared at it, watching the strange slime-like blood trying to connect back to her body, only for it to be forced back to the head. Not enough to be noticeable, though. What would happen? Demons' bodies always regenerate themselves. Even if Nezuko was special, she was still a demon, therefore her body. Nezuko's body. Nezuko. She couldn't connect her head back to her body all alone. Nezuko couldn't use her blood to heal herself. Yet she chose to die, to show her brother the extent of his sick ways, to give her own life. Wait, she gave her own life. She died. The white caminilla that turned red, innocent admiration, death. The fire that was put out. Her eyes let stream of tears as her head shook to side. Kojiro wasn't the one who was supposed to die. It was Nezuko, he muttered, choking down a sob. Yen-chan! A female voice shouted from afar, worried to no end. You easily recognized whose voice it was. Mitsuri's. Once the Piquette saw the situation that unfolded, she let out a fearful scream. Nezuko-chan! By the time Mitsuri and Uzui arrived next to you, poor Nezuko's body was already giving up and trying to regenerate itself. The pink-haired female kneeled next to you, trying not to cry, while the sound pillar was next to Kojiro, inspecting him carefully. He's not injured in the slightest, he breathed out, amazed and revealed. Nezuko healed him. Zenitsu spoke with shaky voice, trying not to cry. She saved him? Mitsuri whimpered, shaking her head as her eyes swelled up with tears. How could this? What can we? She stammered, struggling to muster a single sentence. She then turned head to you. Yen-chan! You said nothing as you held Mitsuri's hand, looking at her with a sorrowful gaze. Of course, your silence was sober, sentimental conviction of the message quite clearly. Too clear for the pink hair to ignore. Mitsuri and you placed your hands atop Nezuko's remains. of her body, closed eyes. You placed Nezuko's placed Nezuko's clothing to its pierce, so she would feel the burn sensation your blessed hands gave off. May your soul find peace, you whispered, voice almost breaking. Mitsuru repeated your words, yet with little delay. Before Nezuko's head disappeared, she gave you a quick smile. She mouthed with care, "Thank you." And just like that, Nezuko's body vanished from the world. The sun began to rise not long after, gleaming with vibrant and wondrous pinkish hue. It was as if the gods wanted to let you know she was safely found a place of her own in heaven. The sight made you finally break into tears as you sobbed uncontrollably. Many kabushiki arrived when the sun was fully in the sky. Some of them were from your state. "Cleanup squad, tend to the passengers injured and get the numbers of casualties," a kabushiki ordered. A small group of the dark uniformed, doing as told, then looked at another group. "You, heal the kabushiki and the demon slayers. Careful with the medicine. They still prototypes." Half the second cleanup squad went with Uzui to find Hajijin, while the other half carefully placed Kojo on a futon they brought and began tending to him elsewhere, with Mitsuri trying to help and give info on what happened. Or at least what she knew. "Yin-san!" A familiar voice shouted and panicked. You lazily glanced toward the voice. A female, black attire, only her eyes showing. Maya. She wasn't the only one running towards you, for more kabushiki accompanied her. Maya quickly embraced you in a hug as she sobbed uncontrollably, some other kabushiki joining the hug and crying as well. Being surrounded by your kabushiki so suddenly caused Tanjiro to stand up and step back, as if undeniably being pushed away from you. The burgundy-haired panicked in an attempt to reach out for you, yet to no avail. The kabushiki weren't budging, and he was being constantly pulled backwards by the cleanup crew. Yin! Tanjiro called desperately before more kabushiki began leading him away from you. "Let us treat our wounds first." "Let me go! You might injure yourself. Please wait." Yin, son, my lady." Maya kept crying, holding on to you for dear life, her tears beginning to dampen your shoulder. "Oh, my poor lady." She silently remained, the same posture you were before Nezuko disappeared, fixed eyes over nothing in particular. Everything felt so disdained and unreal. The sounds around you were normal, but it didn't seem to match your days. You didn't cry. Only your quivered lips and your stone-cold dead expression were present. You wanted to scream, to cry your heart out, to express your frustrations, your anger, your sadness, your sense of helplessness and impotence, to let all your pent-up emotions run free in order to progress what just happened. Your clothes felt heavy and exhausting. There wasn't enough air in your lungs. Your head spun and ached gently. It was too much. It was too much. It was all too much. It was way too much. You gently pried Maya off you, getting to your feet and slowly and groggily. "Yin-san, please don't." Jin, another of your kabushiki, panicked. "Gotta go help. I have to go and help. I must fulfill my duties as a pillar." You spoke in a dazed tone. Your kabushiki looked at you, was silent and a hint of disbelief. Your eyes lost that joyous and lovingly gleam they once held. Your lips quivered as they tried to keep your cries and sorrows. Only the trails of terror in your face that begun to dry was all that remained from your mourning. It was imperfection. You couldn't hide that. You couldn't discard easily. Where's Zenitsu, Inosuke? Conclusion, these injured must tend to them. You hesitantly made your way towards the train, constantly bumping into Kabushki and nearly falling because of how much your legs shook. As you got closer, many voices could be heard, one of them belonging to Zenitsu. "Wait, careful with the blond boy said, yet quickly silenced by the screams of terror that came from many Kabushki. "What the? Dear gods!" The shouting got your attention, so you trotted towards the commotion with trembling arms and not that much difficulty. You crossed the other side of the derailed wagon. You couldn't escape what presented for you to torment you. You did well by suppressing your pain, but life was going to make sure you weren't letting out that agony one way or another. It was just happened, not even an hour ago. Wasn't enough to make you feel true horror, then was definitely going to do so. Inosuke lied underneath pieces of seats, floor, and other things. Blood splattered around him and even seeped out of his mask. The metallic tube that was stuck to his back and perfectly pierced his heart. The cut wasn't clean, though. Flesh and bones stuck out from around the tube like small flowers shyly raising from the ground, blood still pumping out from time to time. You finally gave in. You feel your knees holding your face. Oh, you fell to your knees holding your face, with your nails sinking into your skin. You heard the distant voices of your Kabushi calling out to you, but they were muffled out by the sound of your heartbeat and that damned pounding inside your head. The skies darkened and the earth rumbled. That was most chilling, terrifying, agonizing and grieving scream everyone had ever heard. Dizziness. A major headache. Your eyes hurt greatly. With a pained grunt and struggling blinks, you sat up and awakened from your slumber. It was the room in your estate. No wonder it was so quiet and homey. The air felt fresh, chilly even. Next to your futon laid Kojira's Horis, a small music box, and your pocket watch. Soft ticks could be heard, very soft ones. You reached out for your pocket watch, feeling the cold metal against your fingertips. Very nice way to go back to your sense slowly, actually. You opened the pocket watch. The screen was cracked. Not badly, though. Since the time could still be seen. It was morning. Maybe not that early, but it wasn't noon, either. Huh, you said with a dim, raspy voice. Your hoarse tone startled you greatly, making you clear your throat with a little pain afterwards. What the hell, you thought, setting up and closed the pocket watch aside and standing up. Your legs shook, oh so dimly, and felt light, numb, your head spinning at the non-oh-so-sudden movements. This is enough to make me dizzy and my legs feel so strange, and I must have been sleeping quiet for a while. You sighed, placing a hand on the side of your head. My eyes hurt as well. You took 2 steps before your legs began to quiver, meaning you were about to greet the wooden floor. So you gave one last long step and extended your hand towards the door in hopes for support. The door slid open suddenly, revealing someone on the other side. Definitely a male, since his chest was stiff and flat. Too flat for a girl, too. The loud sound of broken porcelain and glass made themselves present, followed by a soft grunt and a dry thud. You got up from the male you were cushioning and sat next to him. Since whoever it was, the pain of being sandwiched between the floor and you. In all honesty, you were no light feather. Once you looked at his face, did you realize who it was? Michiro? You muttered, voice still raspy. The aforementioned male sat up as well, his hazy emerald eyes looking at you widely and small tears forming from the corner of his eyes. His surprised expression contorted into tiredness and began to sob constantly, crying oceans and holding you heart warmly with bittersweet embrace. You hugged Michiro back, yet weakly, letting everything unfold. Michiro-sama, is everything all... Kabushki asked, with alert tone. His tone came to a halt as well as his running, when he found the mist pillar and you kneeling on the floor and hugging each other. He took a couple steps back before running off in the direction where he came from. Maya-san, Sakana-san, everyone, Yen-san's awake. She's awake. Kitsu! While the Hanadoke estate was turned upside down, in less than 10 seconds, Michiro finally managed to speak between cries and gasps. I was so scared and worried about you. I know you're strong, but The male dearly cupped your face in his hands. His eyes portrayed so much emotions: sadness, relief, care, pain, worry, abandoned. Look at what they have done to you. It must have been so painful. You smiled at Michiro, smiling sadly as you tilted your head sideways slightly. Don't worry much about it. Oh, yeah. Was your mouth dry? How can I not worry about it? I care a lot about you, and Goku-san as well, and Kayaka, your child, Michiro said in an expression, his cries easing down in sniffles. I'm so glad and thankful to the gods that you're alive, but you scared everyone, myself the most. Yandere, a new male voice shouted loudly, and with intense worry. You turned your head towards the voice, seeing the man with long locks of yellow and red hair rush towards you. Kojiro. He seemed as healthy and enthusiastic as always, except for the faint circles under his eyes and his hair that seemed messier than usual. It was a relief to see him alive and well after all the unfoldable that occurred. Oh my God, horrible that day. The mere thought of it was enough to make you feel so many mixed emotions, none of them good. With Michiro's help, you got to your feet, yet you were easily tripped due to the flame pillar's enthusiastic embrace, for he almost quite literally threw himself over you. Much like Michiro, Kojiro held your face and stared into your eyes, as if doing so would convey all the various of different emotions he was currently feeling. It worked well, since you could see the generous joy and heart-wrenching panic in his eyes. Of course he was joyous to know you were awake, but panicking over your well-being. I am the one who was supposed to be on the brink of death. How are you, the one getting into such situations? Kojiro said with urge in his voice. It was no lie that the man was sick about you. Forgive me for my words, but much as I am aware of your connections with the gods, I cannot allow you to join them anytime soon. I cannot. I'm sorry for worrying you. Kojiro's hands on your mouth muffled your words suddenly. Even your vocal cords suffered damage. Please do not speak any further. Don't strain your voice. He's right. Don't overdo yourself any more, Michiro added, almost begging. And how will I communicate? You frowned, soon placing a hand on your throat and wincing dimly. Well, guessing your schedule, your thoughts isn't that difficult, Michiro smiled, letting out a short, briefly laugh. We'll take care of things until you feel ready and are ready. Exactly. So please don't intend to damage yourself, even if you're trying to help us, Kojiro added. You sighed at Michiro and Kojiro's determination, nodding in approval yet hesitation. Ginko and Kitsu have sent letters to the Butterfly Estate and Okiyama-sama about Yen-san's recovery. We will prepare everything for whatever bustle will soon be present. Afima Kabushki spoke, bowing quickly. Thank you. Clean the mess as well, please. Michiro nodded, and the Kabushki, before holding your hand and leading you somewhere, smiling brightly. You must be hungry. Let's get you something to eat. Your Kabushki have been making origiri and beef udon for the past 4 days, since we didn't know when you would wake up, Kojiro chimed before tilting his eyebrows tiredly.
Sadly, I grew tired of origiri and beef udon since yesterday, so we'll be eating something else. As much as I know you love beef and rice, I can't stand the smell at the moment. Forgive me. It's fine. You spoke, yet Michiro and Kojo's frowns and scolding looks kept you from speaking another word. You simply just nodded.
There's so much to tell you, and so many things you have to do. Michio sighed tiredly. Kayaka and Shinobu will be visiting and checking up on your health. Okiyama-sama said a pillar meeting will be held as soon as you would wake up, and then a small funeral for Nezuko that Okiyama wanted to host. We're really in no resting time. Your head clicked at Nezuko's words. Right, Nezuko's death. She was killed by her old brother and that crazed guy you once had feelings for. I'm sorry for making you remember something like that. It's just, Michiro exclaimed apology before stopping himself so he could find the proper words to say next. Kojo glancing at him with a frown. You're not the only one that feels bad about it. Zenitsu told me, and I was shocked to hear what happened. I'm sorry I made you feel sad. You hummed, shaking your head softly. For some reason, you didn't feel sad nor depressed. It was more like an uncomfortable emptiness, truth be told. Maybe the breakdown you had was plenty bad, considering you weren't mourning Nezuko's death nor cursing at Tanjiro, even if he deserved it. You three finally reached the dining room. Michiro opened the door hesitantly, and Kojo sitting next to you swiftly. The much attention was uncomfortable, even more considering you had just woken up. But how could you tell them both to leave you alone when they've clearly been waiting for you to wake up for how long was it? Ah, yes, 4 days. They deserved to spend time with you. So you had to suck up the awkwardness and give them a moment of joy, even a brief one. I'll bring you food. Wait here. Kojo smiled, kissing your forehead and leaving the dining room, Michiro following suit. I'll go help. The kabushki, your words fell into deaf ears as both males slid the door close. You sighed, soon clearing your throat with a wince. A soft knock on the door was heard a couple minutes later, to which you looked towards the door, interest in your eyes. Come in, you spoke. The door opened slightly to reveal a pair of emerald eyes. Maya. Once she realized only you remained in the room, she sighed with relief, left covered her lips. She allowed herself inside the dining room with a muffled "excuse me." Sorry, we didn't approach you, Yen-san. We wanted to give you some space since you just woke up. She shyly spoke. More of your kabushki pouring in the room. They all gave you pats and small, quick hugs as well as words of encouragement and relief. Your kabushki were very welcoming and nice. Somehow you prefer their approach over the fellow pillars, Michiro and Kojo. They felt talking over how things were from that night. You left to what happened while you were away. You were informed of Igaro's unnecessary and devious visit, and the finishing blow he landed on Tanjiro's for God knows what purpose. He really wanted to leave you in a fleshy boom. It was a real bother to have Tanjiro know who he got replaced with, since it left to that victorious and bloody fight. There was no way Tanjiro was getting out of his murder attempt like Igaro did, since it was more serious matter, as messed up as it sounded. Why did Igaro get so much light punishment anyway? You definitely had to ask him about it once you attended the pillar meeting. After the meeting ends, of course, you can't just blurt out the question since the meeting was more of an open matter rather than private and personal. I forgot how impatient and fearsome pillars are. Jin awkwardly laughed, scratching his closed neck. Yen-san's more approachable in comfort sense. In a good way, of course. These days were becoming on edge because Michiro-sama and Rengoku-sama stayed in the estate ever since you arrived, and we were afraid we might disrespect them in some sort of way, Sanaka said with a tired tone, looking too gloomy. We only got to be with you when we washed or cleaned the room. I myself was a bit upset they halted you for themselves like this. We appreciate your help, but it makes us feel useless, another kabushki added. Food's here, Michiro said brightly, startling the kabushki, and
making them scurry their way out of the room with excuse me's. The mitten felt awkward and a bit tad heavy. Kojo and Michio setting 3 plates of food and 3 empty cups, as well as a jug on the table, soba and egg rolls on the side. The drink was melon water, good for throat problems. He reached out towards the jug, only to have it snatched by Michio, and he poured a cup to then hand to you. With a nod, you thanked him and chugged the sweet and refreshing drink, feeling advalent to your throat and even give you a little energy boost. You left out a content sigh, smiling even. He felt better. Only better, not miraculously healed. Melon water could only do so much. Michio sat on your left while Kojo sat on your right, both males clasping their hands together and beginning to eat. You stared at your food for a little bit before finally opting to eat. The pillar meeting will be held tomorrow evening, since Ogiyatama-sama and the rest of the pillars have already received the news that you finally woke up. Michio spoke, looking at you. Shinobu and Kayako will be visiting you. Maybe once we finish eating. Mitsuri wanted to join, but we had to convince her to wait until tomorrow. She was harder to deal with than Toki and Uzui-sama, really. They're all really excited to see you and check on you. Tasty, Rengoku added, eating with such content. Maybe wanting to visit today, but Michio and I think it would be too much for you. After all, we can't have the rest of the pillars have your kabushiki on edge because of them, can we? Michio said in carefree tone, making you shudder and turn your head at him with a jolt. You were met with sweet, innocent smile and closed eyes, head tilted to the side. Terrifying. How is Hajiten-san? You asked, attempting to ease yourself and staring at your food. The Miss Pillar, eerily behaved, pretty much made you lose your appetite. He was badly injured from what I saw. He has many wounds on his sides and lost quite a lot amount of blood, but Shinobu and Kayaka's treatment helped him recover fast. He's been worried a lot about you and said he had something to tell you. He's out on a mission right now, though, so you have to wait until the pillar meeting, unfortunately. Michio replied before pouting. Remember, you can't be overworking your voice. You should eat more. I know, you sighed, accidentally letting your discomfort show. Not like you minded. Maybe Michio could understand and tone things down a knot, as Kabushiki said often. Zenitsu? This time Kojo replied. Zenitsu is doing well. He was the most affected by Nezuko's passing and decided to cut all contacts with Tansho. Same for everyone else at the Butterfly Manor, Inosuke including. Your heart trembled at the mention of the boar boy. So he was still alive. Turns out Inosuke can move his organs around, so whatever impaled him didn't damage anything important aside him. Michio added, almost seeming to read your mind. He did receive one heck of a beating and needed a lot of intense care, that's for sure. Kayako wasn't allowed to meet him because Shinobu was afraid that he might get traumatized pretty bad. How do you know that? Kojo asked, in charge and glancing at the boy. It's my job to do so. And also, I talk with Kayaka a lot. Michio replied, his last sentence seeming like a way to taunt Kojo. Of course it worked. We both get along pretty well, you know. Please, stop it. You sighed, eating once again. And Michio, please give me some space. I feel a little dizzy and overwhelmed. I just woke up, remember. The boy's eyes widened and he seemed hurt. Oh, of course. Sorry about it. Dinner time passed by slightly. You ate a lot, of course, and occasionally made small talk, reminding them that you didn't want them all over your business. You weren't fond of being babied or exclusively taken care of, for obvious reasons. Just as Yurgabushki finished cleaning the table, Maya knocked on the door, announcing the arrival of both the insect pillar and your child. Before you could tell her to let them in, the door slid open with a single harsh movement, revealing Kayaka. His round and dark eyes widened and welled up with tears as soon as he saw you. Said boy wasted no time to run towards you and jump into your arms that widely opened to greet him and shower him with much love as you could without schmoozing him as he lovingly and caring death. I miss you so much. My little ray of overwhelming sunshine. You chuckled, hugging him tighter. He didn't fall behind, small sobs occasionally accompanying him. Not a single word left his lips, for he simply enjoyed the movement and comfort words you gave off. He had quite a rough time after all. Nonetheless, it was saddening to see him still refuse to cry out loud. Now, Kayaka, remember, we're here for a checkup, Shinobu called, tilting her head. We can't have you break your bones with your strength of yours. So she was trying to cheer him up with the ease of gloomy appetite. So, you're getting stronger? He spoke softly, running your fingers through his hair smoothly. Silence. A nod. You giggled breathlessly. I'm sure you can take Inosuke down even easier this time. I can't break a body code. You heard Kayaka speak, yet it was muffled by your clothing and a soft hiccups. It's barely the size of my arm. I can't break it. It takes time, dear. Don't try to pressure yourself. You comforted him, holding his face in your hands. You think you can give me a checkup, or is it harder than breaking a gourd? Hano! Kayaka whined in embarrassment, a small sob following. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. You quickly apologized. All's good. The blackette hummed, taking notes, and Shinobu surveying him a couple of feet from the boy. Aside from her sore throat and numb legs and slight malnourishment and dehydration, Hano, the patient, is all right. Nothing medicine and exercise can't help with. Thank you so much, Dr. Koduku. You nodded, sifting a laugh, of course. Kayaka noticed and frowned at your actions. Don't call me that. Shinobu and Kayaka and you went to your bedroom for the checkup. Kojo and Michiro waited outside your room. The black cat was the one doing most of the tests and asking questions. Shinobu helped him with the things he didn't understand much or simply couldn't do. Nonetheless, the little boy had quite the skills and was really impressive, even if he was fully aware of his talent for medicine and surgical knowledge. Okay, I'm sorry, you giggled, ruffling his hair. Ask Maya to give you whatever candy or comforty you want, all right? As an apology. The black cat's expression brightened, and he nodded. Can I get some extra candy for Hano, Keo, and Sume? And Inosuke? Why not? You shrugged, smiling. Kayaka smiled once more. I'll be back. Kayaka left the room hurriedly, which meant Shinobu and you could finally talk. Michiro, Kojo dear, could you go please check on Kayaka? He likes to make a mess while eating. You called, both males replying with a quick answer and excusing themselves. And then you looked at Shinobu. How has Tanjiro been acting so far? He's been in sort of shock, barely eating and spending most of his time staring at nothing and skipping training. It's concerning, really. Shinobu replied with a sigh. As much as I know it's not the best of options to have him in the same place, let alone the same room and sending it to Inosuke, I can't let him go back to missions like that. He has no conditions to be let out back in the field, and who knows what he might try to do. True, that was all you said, looking away. Your eyes fell upon Kojiro's folded horis and your pocket watch. Inosuke and Zenitsu, how are they? Inosuke suffered no injuries, but there's been a clear rift between him and Tanjiro. One even worse than before. The insect pillar said. Inosuke lost a lot of blood and he is in terrible condition, but he's slowly getting back to normal. Those stab wounds were really difficult to deal with. There were multiple stab wounds? You asked, slightly afraid. Your darkened eyes darted back at the lavender-eyed pillar. While the flesh was torn way too badly to be just a single stab, it seemed to be repeated action. Shinobu sighed, as if doing so could help her understand the situation. I don't know if you were informed of it as well, but Inosuke seemed to be able to move his organs around his body. A miracle to have such an ability, if you ask me. Of course. You let a weak laugh at her words, reflecting your ivory as you glanced at your side. After your happening, I'm starting to believe more in miracles and divine happenings, Shinobu added. None of you said another word after that. The only sound was the ticking of your pocket watch and the distant chatter of Michiro, Rengoku, and Kayaka. Finally, Shinobu broke the silence. We should tell Okiyama-sama about this. We don't know everything in precious detail, so we can't waltz in without any concerned evidence and solid consent. And not like these recent happenings prove us any answers either, he replied, looking at her. It was hard to know what to do, really. The gods can help, but I need to regain my strength in order to talk with them. It's all about mind and spirit, after all. Unfortunately, it will take a while. I see, Shinobu hummed, wincing dimly. What a dilemma. What a troubled situation indeed. One question in particular, though, lingered in your mind and ate your rationally and calmlessness away. What was worse? To not know what might unfold on later? Or have everything you thought could happen truly be reality?